Hello, I'm Avaris. This is Pre-Odyssey, Odysseus, Penelope, and her ducks. I hope Quickheles has delivered my message. Everything is going according to plan. For the next few days, Penelope didn't see Odysseus. They did keep exchanging messages through her ducks. Apparently, King Tyndareus had made a move, so the whole palace became abuzz with activity. It was something about conducting a ritual for an oath, which involved all of her suitors. Unfortunately, this also involved Odysseus's mandatory attendance, even though he had thrown the towel with Helen. He was still masquerading as her suitor so that he could continue staying at their place as a guest. Not long after that, Helen had finally chosen a husband, and just as Odysseus had guessed, it was some guy named Menelaus. With Helen now finally engaged, it should have been time for everyone to return home, right? But that was not the case. King Tyndareus invited everyone to stay for a little while longer, for an event he and a certain collaborator had planned. So, yeah, that's pretty much the case. Let me get this straight. You've cut a deal with Uncle to help with Helen's engagement so that he'd vouch to Father for you. Pretty much. And you solved the problem he's had for months in just a few days? Uh-huh. I'm sorry, this is... I can do anything if I put my mind to it. Come on, praise me. Good grief, Odysseus. You're so cool, you're so amazing. Also, with his whole flipping between, that dark look of, evilness and his cute look in front of Helen where he's like, no, I'm amazing and you don't need to worry about anything. It's totally fine. He almost seems yandere, which is kind of a nice look for him. Certainly when it comes to Penelope and the whole there's also later. But let's not talk about the Odyssey. This is pre-Odyssey, and right now it is adorable, and there are ducks. See? Duckamedes gets it. The little one said, "You have a terrible ego." But I probably should keep quiet on that. Still, your father sure is stubborn. I got Tyndareus to talk to him about handing you over, but he wouldn't settle for it without me beating him in a foot race. I'm sorry about that. Don't be. I'm more frustrated over not being able to take you home sooner. I just can't wait to have you see Ithaca already. Then we can stroll along the seaside, tour around the market, and I'll treat you to some of our special delicacies. Don't you have work to do? Why do you have to remind me of that? Also, kings. They could literally shirk their responsibilities and they'll be fine. I'll be your wife, so isn't it my responsibility to keep you in line? Wife, right? Wife. This still feels like a dream. Then if this were really just a dream,
it's a dream I wouldn't want to wake up from.
Aw, they said it together. The two spoke in unison. They stared at each other and then laughed. Even Aphrodite would have winced at that, huh? You started it. No, you. It was you. I think the ducks have had enough of these two. The duck then waddled off somewhere. It wasn't difficult to translate that one. I'll give you two some space. Anyway, the race should be in 3 days. Your uncle and I have talked it over, and he will be sponsoring the event. So your father can't make excuses to get away from it, lest he make a fool of his brother. I guess Uncle is one of the only people Father couldn't easily oppose. Tyndareus said he'll save you and the ducks the best seat in the stadium, so I'd better hear you cheer me on. I can watch? Why do you sound surprised? Father never lets me watch his races.
Oh, it's your first time then. It'll be a feast for your eyes. You'll enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to the event then. Odysseus and Penelope continued to meet for the next 3 days, though their meetings had been brief since the young man was training for the race. Icarius, Penelope's father, made himself scarce. From the rumors she had heard, it seemed that he was upset over his brother taking Odysseus's side. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. So, this is the venue of the race? The guards said Odysseus should be that way. Come, let's go say hi. She smiled, trailed by no less than 10 ducks from behind. Odysseus, I'm... Well, why are you...
Oh. Oh my goodness. Cover your eyes to censor something, or stare respectfully. Don't you dare censor. Okay, we're staring. Totally being respectful, by the way.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Are you changing right now?
Oh, you're here. Wait, you didn't know?
Didn't know what?
Foot races are done naked. Even your old man will be out there with his chest bare and proud.
Oh, I guess I need to get used to it.
Dude, you were wearing a loincloth, don't lie. Yeah, you'd better. You're coming home with me, remember?
You have a point.
That said, she didn't really think Odysseus would be well-toned underneath his clothes. And as long as the camera's looking around... Hello, Odysseus. Remember, everyone, we're looking respectfully. I mean, someone's just showing off their artistic skill at this point. That's some really nice shading. And some excellent line work. It made sense, though, since kings typically have to learn how to use weapons, thus they go through rigorous training. When I said, you'd better get used to it, I didn't mean admire me.
I can't?
Of course you can.
Her eyes darted toward a noticeable mark on his leg. Looking closer, it seemed to be a huge wound?
What are you looking at?
Odysseus traced her line of sight.
Ah, that. It's a wound I got from a boar hunt. Pretty nasty, ain't it?
Penelope could only shake her head. It looked like it would have been painful.
I was 15 back then, just a little before I inherited the throne.
Oh, so are you good at hunting?
Shh, of course I'm good at hunting.
What about those? Swords?
I'd say I'm pretty handy with the bow. I even have one that only I could string. Between you and me, it has a little secret to it, so brute force won't cut it. You're quite talkative today, though, aren't you?
Well, I guess I'm just nervous. What if you lose?
I won't.
How can you be so sure?
Because I make things happen. I told you, didn't I? I can do anything if I put my mind to it.
I wish I could be more like you. When you say something, you really make it sound believable. It's no wonder I fell in love with you.
You can be really straightforward sometimes, you know? But let me tell you, you don't have to be like me. I like you for being you. So just keep being yourself. Even if you strive to grow, you're free to find your own path. You don't have to copy me. You can be strong in your own way. You are strong in your own way.
Thanks.
Well.
And here I thought I couldn't love you even more.
You're relentless today. I do hope you'll keep finding more reasons to keep loving me further.
We'll see.
Whatever happened to that adorable, dense little lady I once knew?
Penelope turned around, ready to leave. She fell in love. Penelope sat by the special area that her uncle had provided. It was right down the stadium, practically front row seats to the race. Even her ducks were given a special seating. Odysseus mentioned before that he got her uncle to procure the best duck bedding they could find in Greece. While happy that Odysseus cared for them so much, Penelope honestly thought it was overboard. Still, seeing how the ducks were enjoying their makeshift seats, it was probably worth it. That said, there were a lot more people than she expected. Her uncle likely invited even the common folk to attend. Penelope wasn't accustomed with being around huge crowds, so she was actually quite anxious. The only saving grace being that she had a special seating away from them. They even had a makeshift sun shield and servants fanning them. Isn't this a little too much, Uncle? Her seat was right next to King Tyndareus.
Nonsense! My niece only deserves the best.
He nodded proudly to himself. I don't get many opportunities to speak with Uncle, but it's good to know that he's actually nice.
Still, your father is a little too much, don't you think? I've heard. You've been spending time with that young lad, Odysseus, yes?
Oh, yes.
Haha. I'm glad my home served as the place for your love story.
Uncle sure is in a good mood. This is kind of embarrassing.
Anyway, I wish Icarius just stops being so stubborn. His dear daughter is obviously smitten. He should just let her be. It's rare for youth today to marry for love, you know? Tisk.
He sure is passionate about this. Just then, a man finally walked up the center of the stadium.
And now, we're about to begin the competition for Lady Penelope's hand in marriage.
The host at the center broadcasted with a booming voice and then pointed at her. People from the audience brought their eyes toward her direction. Penelope just couldn't help but sink in her seat. She didn't like being the center of attention. It made her somewhat nauseous.
Today, we have 10 contenders vying for Prince Icarius' daughter. Who will come out the victor?
10?
Oh, did Odysseus not mention? When I announced the event, a few others volunteered to take part. Ha ha ha! You're one popular lass.
Uncle, you were just saying how you supported me and Odysseus. Why did you bring in other people? Suddenly, she felt even more nervous. How did it come to this?
As per usual, the losers of the match shan't be allowed to step foot in Sparta forever.
Huh?
Oh, yes. He clicked his tongue. That's your father's handiwork there.
Why didn't Odysseus tell me this? Knowing him, it's likely because he believes that he will win anyway, without a doubt.
And now, without further ado, here are our runners for today.
And of course, they were all almost naked. Her father wasn't among them, though. He will probably have a special entrance later. She felt her blood rushing to her head. For a girl who had been sheltered for all her life, seeing these many men almost buck naked was overstimulating. Especially with them this up close. Stay strong, Penelope. She looked around and saw a number of women above the audience seats, screeching and cheering at the runners. Unlike her, they seemed to be enjoying this. Should I copy them? Penelope took in a sharp breath. But all that came out was a wheeze. Just as she was feeling down about not being able to cheer on Odysseus, his words from just a while earlier came back to her.
You are strong in your own way.
No, I can do this. Okay, one more time. Once more, she breathed in. You can do it! The girl shouted at the top of her lungs. Her scream surprised her uncle as well as the runners. Odysseus looked to her direction and smiled. I did it! Not long after, the runners positioned themselves at the starting line. Of course, Icarius was there as well. For a man of his age,
he was ridiculously buff.
They're about to begin. 3, 2, 1.
And they're off!
Penelope was at the edge of her seat. Immediately, her eyes searched for Odysseus. He was doing pretty average. Smack dab in the middle of the running. At this rate, Odysseus would lose. What happened to all his confidence? No, this is just the beginning. I believe he can turn this around. She pouted as she watched them complete another lap. The noise of the stadium didn't die down one bit. In fact, for every lap, the people would cheer louder and stronger. Interestingly enough, some of the runners who were ahead had now lagged behind, but Odysseus maintained a steady pace. Still, that was nothing to praise about. Her father was still far ahead, and he was also keeping his pace. I never imagined father being this formidable. Penelope held her breath, hoping for Odysseus to turn the tides. Just then, one of the runners caught up to the Ithacan king and tried to swipe Odysseus with his arm. What? Uncle, did you see that? That runner tried to hit Odysseus.
Well, you can't really avoid accidents in these events.
Accidents? I'm pretty sure it was intentional.
What can I do? We don't have any rule against that. You know what? We should probably enforce more rules next time. Oh, gee, think?
Why is Uncle keeping calm? Odysseus can get hurt. Just as she was thinking that, another runner comes to him from behind. Odysseus, watch out! Just as she screamed, the young man managed to dodge by speeding up and making a forward dash. The one behind him slid across the floor when he missed his tackle. Penelope sighed in relief and wiped her forehead. Still, this is strange. Why are they all going after him when he's not even in the lead? Penelope's eyes hovered over to her father. Could it be? Uncle Tyndareus, I don't want to speak ill of father, but is there a possibility that he's the one who asked the other contestants to target Odysseus?
Her uncle raised a brow. Nonsense, child. Icarius doesn't need to do something like that. He is a champion runner, and he has pride in his skills. Besides, none of his other competitions had this kind of this happen.
Then it isn't father? Maybe people with a grudge against Odysseus. She groaned, both worried and frustrated about the situation. No, hold on. Father does have a reason to not let Odysseus out of anyone else win. I'm betting every other contestant are only after the throne. But Odysseus is the only one who wants to take me back to his homeland. She pursed her lips. If that really was the case, then Odysseus will continue to be targeted. Excuse me, Uncle. Her uncle smiled and gestured that she's allowed to go. I don't understand how Uncle can remain calm despite this. With that, she scurried over to her ducks. Meanwhile, at the stadium track,
they're being more and more annoying pests than I expected. I should have gotten a couple of people to assist me with this. I mean, I expected this, but still. Ugh.
He sighed.
Oh well, no use complaining. They'll be the first to start dropping like flies.
Little ones? The ducks were happily bouncing in their VIP nest when she approached. Please, help Odysseus. Some runners are trying to attack him, and I'm worried he might get badly hurt. What's that? Permission to act on your accord? Sure? Having given her consent, the bird flew off. Somewhere. Hey, where are you? At that moment, Penelope had no idea what she just unleashed. Back at the stadium track.
Yo there, future father-in-law!
Odysseus caught up next to Icarius, though the older man was still a whole lap around ahead of him.
If you have the time to chat, it'd do you better to save it for actually trying to win. I don't have to try. I will win.
The old king let out a snort.
Big words for someone who's a lap behind. You mean only a lap behind. Has anyone ever told you that you're quite maddening? Ooh, that's a new one.
No one had ever expected what happened next. It was said on that day the sky went dark, and the air was filled with endless quacks and wing flaps.
What? The duck?
On the other hand, Icarius was left speechless. In that moment, he paused in awe of the duck-filled sky. Everyone probably stopped what they were doing back then, with the exception of Odysseus, who kept running. The humans had gotten quiet, pointing and watching the wave of fowls. The humans had gotten quiet, pointing and watching the wave of fowls in the sky.
Quaquiles, what the duck is going on? I have no idea what you're saying.
However, the ducks only kept circling the stadium, without really doing anything but quack. It was simply ominous.
Is this an omen?
The king muttered to himself as he watched the darkened sky.
Should we suspend the competition?
I think you guys overdid it. You didn't call all the ducks of Greece here, did you?
That looked like a yes.
What do you mean, not yet? Send them back. Please. And the duck flew up.
He looked disappointed.
Not long after, the darkened sky began to clear and the sea of ducks subsided. Thank goodness.
Oh, they're gone. What was that about? Maybe those birds dropped by just to watch,
her uncle joked. His mood had clearly brightened up now that the omen was gone. People whispered. Some say it must have been the gods. Others say it was a sign. This event would be the talk of the land for years to come. But it would soon be forgotten, lost in time. I don't think any other runners will try anything against Odysseus anymore. She smiled at him and waved. You can do it! Odysseus waved back. A few continued running, but the other contestants seemed to have been in too much shock that they bowed out of the race. Those who attacked him before, in particular, had withdrawn. If Odysseus hadn't continued doing his laps, no one else probably would have resumed doing theirs. Unfortunately, Icarius was one of those who had resumed. Thus, the race was back on. Back to Odysseus.
That's a Duckapocalypse if I've ever seen one.
You can do it! He turned to the voice and waved.
Either way, that gave me some unexpected leverage. I've gotten past Icarius somehow.
He paused on his thoughts for a moment to mull.
That was Penelope's doing, wasn't it? Huh. Man, she's so fun. Well then, time to get through this final stretch.
The race was reaching its finale. Because of the short, ducky intermission, Odysseus somehow had gotten in the lead. Penelope talked about it with her uncle. What if her father uses the ducks as his excuse to make the race results invalid? Uncle reassured her that he wouldn't allow such a thing since Odysseus kept running. So there technically wasn't any excuse to stop. That said, despite the leverage he had gotten, Icarius was still indeed formidable. He had managed to catch up with Odysseus and was toe-to-toe with the young man. They are currently taking a water break. Odysseus only stopped by the water station for a bit, but he still found time to wave at her once again. This is the final stretch. You can do it! She silently cheered him on. Back at the stadium track.
Are you sure your bones aren't giving out yet? Your tactics won't work on me.
Final lap. The two men ran side by side, with each one continuously overtaking the other. Odysseus was young, and he had saved up most of his stamina, so what he lacked in speed, he made up with his endurance. However, Icarius was nothing to sneeze at. Power, speed, endurance. He was at the top of it all. Had he not been distracted by the duck-filled sky, he would have been in the lead right now. Or so Odysseus would refute.
Hey, see that? Your daughter's cheering for me.
He pointed out as they passed her.
Couldn't you just let her go already? You know that this is what she wants. Why would you deny her of it? Ha! You don't know anything, young man. Nor does she. Penelope's a sheltered, naive child. She doesn't know what you're dragging her into. Oh? It seems to me like you're just making excuses. I told you, didn't I? I don't mind waiting. I don't mind if you tell her. Tell her what I'm dragging her to, then. I'd gladly arrange a visit tour for Ithaca. Just give me the date. Or you can even visit without notice. I bet she'll have fun. I refuse. Thought so. Well then, if you're not going to budge, I'll just win this myself. I do hope you know that she isn't an object for you to own.
The older king winced. And just fell silent. Before he can say any more, Odysseus kicked up his speed and ran past Icarius. Icarius tried to catch up, but his speed had somewhat fallen. Perhaps the fatigue was catching up to him. Or perhaps... Either way, the finish line was within sight. 1 week after the race.
Odysseus, are you sure you don't want to stay here and become a new king of Sparta?
The Ithacan king just shrugged.
Nah, too much work. Penelope, dear, are you sure this is the man you want?
Penelope just hid behind Odysseus and nodded.
Penelope, you don't know what it's like there in Ithaca. Boy, isn't that why I kept offering you to give Ithaca a chance first? Now I won the race fair and square. You've lost your chance.
He made a shooing gesture to the older king.
Icarius just grumbled under his breath. Penelope, do you really want to leave with him? I'm not even opposing you to take him as your husband anymore. Just stay here, please.
The girl just pulled her veil over her face and held onto Odysseus' clothing, and then she retreated behind Odysseus once again.
Penelope. Okay, that's enough. I think she's made her choice. Don't worry. It's not like I'm imprisoning her in Ithaca or something. She can visit whenever, you know?
With that, Icarius sighed. He gave Penelope one last glance before finally turning away.
Man, your dad's really attached, huh? I mean, it's kind of his fault. If he hadn't been challenging other suitors to a race, then you'd likely be betrothed to someone who actually wants the throne.
But it wouldn't have been you.
Yeah. He unintentionally saved the seat for me, huh? But how about you? Are you sure?
Penelope didn't think twice about nodding. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Ithaca.
Oh? And I'm looking forward to showing you around. Your ducks will also love it there. We have a ton of farms and plenty of places for them to roam. While they're at it, they can take care of the pests. Oh, but please don't bring about the Duckapocalypse in Ithaca.
Well, as long as you behave.
No, not you too. Getting in trouble is my natural instinct. Okay, fine. I'll try, but no promises. Hey, if something's bothering you, just tell me. I'll be your husband soon, but I was still your friend first.
Penelope looked up at him and smiled. It's nothing. Maybe I'm just feeling a little sad about finally leaving. But honestly, I wouldn't say that I have any attachments here other than my ducks. And they're coming along, so... She trailed off.
Well, I can't read minds, but if you'd like to talk, know that I'm here.
She took his hand into hers and placed it over her cheek. I'm happy I met you.
You're not allowed to use a backhanded attempt like that.
Well, you're free to retaliate.
You won't regret it?
What if I'm asking for it?
Nuts. Why do you have to be so adorable?
Slowly, Odysseus leaned toward her. He gently grabbed her by the hand and then pulled her toward him. Penelope followed his lead without resistance, and they shared a kiss. The gentleness of his hands, the scent of his presence, the touch of his lips. Penelope loved them all.
I love you, Penelope.
Where is that coming from?
From my heart.
May Aphrodite smite you.
Hey, I'm kidding. But seriously, I love you a lot. Loads and loads. I can't wait to bring you home.
I can't wait to be home. A chance encounter that began with a quack. Thus marks the start of their long odyssey. There may be a cruel fate in store for them, An ordeal that will last for decades. But as long as they continue to fight, as long as they continue to remain strong, as long as they continue to love one another, they will definitely find each other once again. And little baby Telemachus! Oh my goodness, this was adorable!
彩り好きの夜長に優しい腕に抱かれて桜の花びらが舞う頃に幸せの声を聞いた当たり前の日々も誰かのおかげだとやっと気づいた今なら言葉にもできるまっすぐ歩いてきたんだあなたの笑顔が見たくて変わらない帰る場所いつまでもずっとこれからもねありがとう時に傷つけたり涙してたこともあるそれでもいつも後ろから背中を押してくれた探して見失って立ち止まった時だって見守ってくれてた今でも覚えているんだまっすぐ歩いてきたんだたまには迷った時もあるけど変わらない優しい愛の森をずっと忘れないねありがとう
Well, this was exceedingly adorable. Everything from the adorable K-drama style story, I mean, it was like a soap opera in real time, but it was beautiful, it was glorious, and there were ducks, it was funny, it was hilarious, it was heartfelt. There were so many things that went into this, and there is so much love in this game. I really enjoyed this. So much. Not just because, you know, Greek myth is like an awesome thing, and with Epic and a lot of the other stuff around the Odyssey coming, it's like kind of a thing, but also this is just so nice. There was so much love and effort put into this, and I adore it so much. Extra content unlocked, what could that possibly be? Oh, just beautiful. Yeah, I do wonder if it's possible her dad received like an oracle or something that would have told him, oh hey, if Penelope does go with Odysseus, then, you know, she's gonna have those decades spent alone raising her child, and there's no guarantee of him coming back, he becomes an enemy of the gods, etc., etc. So he wanted to spare her pain, maybe. We didn't really get into any of that. I don't know if that's available on another of the routes, but I really liked what we were on. I really liked their romance. I really liked how they talked with each other. Their banter was great. They're both such adorable, awesome characters. Odysseus as a friggin' trickster and a liar, technically, but he's so cute, and it's not like he's a liar all the time. He's just got his own methods, his own means of doing things, but that's okay. It's all really cool. I kind of talked about this already. He's almost like a little bit yandere, and it's like, that's a good look for him, though. And Penelope was just adorable. Penelope was... she's so naive, but she's just... I've seen this heroine so many times or whatever, but at the same time, she has such uniqueness, and it might be partially the ducks, but it's also the art and just how she's written. I don't know, everything about this was just so cozy and just made you feel good. There's a lot of cool stuff, and there's obviously more to the extras, but I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. This is... wow. This has been an experience. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you so much for joining me on this pre-Odyssey journey with Penelope, Odysseus, and ducks. I hope you have a nice night, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!